Raf Epstein.
You don't get much more powerful than the High Court, and it is one of the most important jobs in the country. Someone who sat on the bench for a decade has been accused of indecent assault. Someone's investigated those complaints, and they include some pretty disturbing allegations. And forgive me here for the language, but this is about indecent assault. An allegation that he put his hands down my pants, an allegation that he started filling up the side of my leg, an allegation that he slid his hand between her thighs. Separate women, different allegations, and as you heard from Jim Graham there, the Chief Justice of the current High Court, Susan Kiefel, has met with most, if not all, of the women. Kate McClymont joins us, investigative journalist from The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald. Kate, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, Raf.
Who investigated these claims?
The High Court themselves organised an independent investigator after two associates of former Justice Dyson Heydon complained in March 2019. So the High Court then hired Dr. Vivienne Thom, who is the former Inspector General of Defence and Security. So she's a pretty high-powered person herself. So she took several months to inquire. I think she investigated, I think there were 6 different women who complained, and she interviewed 12 people in total. And at the end of that, she found that the allegations of sexual harassment against Dyson Heydon were upheld. Yeah, and it's fascinating to see the Chief Justice, Susan Kiefel, putting out a statement saying we are ashamed that this could have happened at the High Court of Australia. And she has said that the women's accounts of their experience at the time have been believed. So that's pretty damning stuff.
It's just an extraordinary story, A, because it's a High Court judge, and B, the independent investigator. Vivienne Thom's the person who used to investigate intelligence agencies when there were complaints against them and the Defence Department. So you couldn't get a more high-powered person to investigate. What has Dyson Heydon said?
He has denied any of the more serious allegations of indecent assault. He has denied that absolutely categorically, and he's saying that in respect of his alleged conduct at the High Court, that if he's caused any offence, he apologises for that. But he also says in his statement that this was not the findings of a court of law, that none of the his alleged victims were cross-examined. So he does, in some ways question the validity of the High Court's findings.
Is there going to be any other legal action, do we know?
Look, I think we're waiting to see what the next move might be of some of the women, whether they do take their complaints further. That's yet to be determined.
Did you get a chance to speak to any of the women making the claims?
Yes, I spoke to several of the women back in 2018. We've been working on this for 2 years now. So yes, I have spoken to some of the women at length. And, I think that the dreadful thing about their allegations was that 2 of these women were, if you are an associate of a High Court judge, you are the cream of the crop. You're usually the university medalist, you're a scholarship holder, you are, the brightest juniors in the land. And 2 of the complainants were so scarred by working for Dyson Heydon that both of them just abandoned the law, did not practice the law, and both of them live overseas. So I think that that's, fairly telling of the effect. And I think what they were saying was that we had no one to complain to. When your alleged harasser is a High Court judge, exactly where do you go to complain?
What do you make of the way the High Court dealt with it this time?
Look, I think the High Court is to be really commended. Not only has the Chief Justice Susan Kiefel formally apologised and apologised in a statement, she has individually apologised to each of the women. She has listened to them. The High Court is now instituting 6 recommendations so that this will never happen again. So I think all those things are to be commended. You rarely see a workplace come out and say, right, we accept what you say, this is not acceptable behaviour, and this is what we intend to do about it. So they are to be commended for that.
And I'm just looking at some of the detail of your article, Kate, and Dyson Heydon's a companion of the Order of Australia, which I think is the one that former Prime Ministers often receive. But just some of the detail, that there was a complaint about from someone as far afield as Oxford University. Is that someone who came to you, or is that a complaint that came about after Vivienne Thom began her investigation?
No, that was a complaint that had come to us a while ago. But, the fact that we've got a current judge has confirmed that Dyson
One of the
Heydon...
complainants is a judge. Yes.
Is a current judge who complained that Dyson Heydon, while she was practising as a barrister, slid his hands between her thighs. This is while she was at a professional dinner. And she said, that is an indecent assault. It is a criminal offence. There was no consent. And Dyson Heydon, I must add, has categorically denied committing any allegations of that nature, but we have a pattern we've got the former president of the Law Society of the ACT saying that he did exactly the same to her at a University of Canberra function where Dyson Heydon was the guest speaker. And
so you've got a former head of a law society and a current judge making complaints about a former High Court judge.
Yes, yes, that's correct. So it's pretty worrying stuff, really, when you think that this was, as we were saying, a brilliant legal mind and one of the highest judicial officers in the country. Apart from the Chief Justice, you can't get any higher.
No.
And he ran the Royal Commission into trade unions.
And is Vivienne Thom's independent investigation, she's the woman who used to investigate intelligence agencies when there were complaints, is that report being made public, or do we only have the statement from the High Court?
We only have the statement from the High Court. However, the two women who have gone public have shared that report with my colleague Jacqueline Maley and I.
Okay. What's your best guess on some form of civil action from the women? Is it more likely to go ahead or less likely to go ahead now it's been independently looked into by the High Courts?
Look, I don't know. I think that would be up to them to decide. I can't answer that question.
Really?
I'm sure that will become clearer in the following days. I think they'll probably announce what their next step is intended to be.
Really quite a remarkable story once again, Kate. Thank you.
My pleasure, Russ.
Kate McClymont, investigative journalist, long-time investigative journalist at The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald. So that's a former High Court judge who was there for 10 years, did the Royal Commission into the trade unions, being accused by 5 lawyers, 6 women, one of them a judge, one of them the former head of the Law Society in the ACT. And you have the current head of the High Court apologising to the women, saying their accounts are being believed. That's really quite a remarkable group of people involved. Is it a remarkable series of allegations? Well, no, it's not remarkable given that the extent of those allegations. We've heard comments and allegations like that so many times, and we've heard defences like that so many times as well, haven't we? Dyson Heydon denying it all and saying the women haven't been cross-examined and it isn't a court of law. Look, I know this can bring up issues for many of you. Don't forget the 1-800-RESPECT line. That can really help get you someone to talk to or get you the service you need if that's what you need right now. 1-800-RESPECT.
Raf Epstein.
I really just want to emphasise those sexual allegations, I should say sexual harassment allegations, some of them of indecent assault, strongly denied by the former High Court judge. I've just never heard of a series of investigations being investigated by someone like Vivienne Thom. Like, you can't get someone who's been more highly qualified and cleared in the past to deal with classified information. She is someone who dealt with complaints and any improper behaviour inside our intelligence agencies. And then to have the Chief Justice of the High Court, Susan Kiefel, saying that the allegations from the women are being believed. It's just an extraordinary collection of people involved in a story like that we've perhaps become a bit too used to hearing.